And Mariella, thanks to you both. We're going to be leaning on you both to keep an eye on the chat room, keep an eye on the comments, so that we can come to you and you can help us to pick out some comments that catch your eye, and we can start on that, assuming that we have lots of people who are giving information at the same time. So that's the housekeeping out of the way. I think a very brief introduction to me. I'm from the United Nations. My name is Connor Lennon. I work in the Department for Global Communications in the News and Media Division. So in a way, I'm doing my outreach. I'm trying to explain to people around the world what the UN does, because outside of the UN, a lot of people do have a misconception of what the UN does. And there's a real lack of understanding that I realized when I came here around 4 years ago. I was a broadcaster and a journalist before then, working in the UK and Switzerland. And like many people, I had a positive image of the UN, but I didn't really know much about what the organization does, apart from peace and security, the Security Council, and the peacekeeping missions, and a very vague understanding of how the agencies, the famous names like UNICEF, UNHCR, World Health Organization, how they work within the UN system as well. So it's been a real journey of discovery for me, and it still is. I'm still learning new things every day about what this organization does. In terms of lockdown, we have had to work remotely like so many people. We ended up working from home, and there were pros and cons with that. We found that because most of our work is to do with writing, we were able to actually be more productive at home. You know, working in sweatpants, you don't have to have the commute to work. All this was great. And we, over time, worked out how to use these telecommuting tools like Microsoft Teams or Zoom or the others that are out there more efficiently. And of course, we miss that face-to-face interaction, which is really important. But at the same time, in a way, we were more willing to use the tool, so we were more able to meet people from different parts of the world, perhaps, than we were before, when we were just walking from one office to the next. So that's been my experience. On the whole, pretty positive. The social interaction you don't really get. But I would say from a personal point of view, it's been fine. Although I do understand that for many people around the world, and many of my colleagues as well, it's been very difficult, particularly when they have young children or children of school age. And some people have found it very isolating as well. So that's it from me. And I'd like to turn over now to the co-lead today, Alibe. Alibe, please introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alibe Hamacher, and I fit into this panel in a little different way. I come from the nonprofit side. I've been very involved with community advocacy for many years in my neighborhood. And then later on, I became the vice president of an organization that is affiliated to the UN through the United Department of Global Communications and ECOSOC. And I, just like Connor, I had an idea about the UN, but I never expected the level of involvement that I was going to get just participating in their meetings and exchanging communications and just meeting very important people and also very interesting people that come out with solutions for things that we didn't have solutions. So Connor just posted, shared the Live a Sustainable World. So after so many years of working and advocating for the UN, I decided that I would no longer work with the nonprofit, but I created my own consultancy and a YouTube channel. The consultancy focuses on helping NGOs to really take advantage of marketing, digital equipment to be able to reach people globally, because I'm following the model of the UN, you want to reach global. And then because, just like Connor said, people have a very strange understanding of the UN. What I'm trying to do with this I Live a Sustainable World at my YouTube channel is to give an access to learning about the UN civil society side, understanding how the political side works, but how civil society has been so great on impacting changes globally, including the Agenda 2030, which right now I am going everywhere presenting and advocating for the Agenda 2030 and teaching nonprofits how their mission relate to what goals with the agenda. And so for the part of COVID, I created all this consultancy and the channel during COVID, which is, it was a great opportunity for me because I could really set up the time to do this. And at the same time, I, in the process of going through the same struggles that our other nonprofit organizations were going, I started to become very savvy with different ways that I could be successful and share that with the nonprofits. And as always, very involved with my community. I also took advantage of networks everywhere, including one with the White House. They have their own outreach and during COVID, and it was fantastic because I was getting emails from the White House and invitations to join meetings where COVID discussions were happening. There is the email, thank you, Connor. And this was great because through the White House outreach, we learned so much about what was going on in other states and schools, how police was handling, when they had to arrest people, how nonprofits were feeding their community, the steps they set up for donation of food and clothing, because what we realized is COVID, it was not just stay home. It was affecting everything. Job opportunities, students who just finished college, they didn't know where to go for the next job or even in an internship. So from my perspective, I think I've seen it all because I was exposed to so much, and I'm still helping those communities through the nonprofit. If the nonprofit does better, then the community will receive a better service. And that's why I truly believe that we have to continue supporting nonprofits, that they are truly given to absolute commitment to the community. So that's it. Thank you. And now we are introducing Mariela. Do you want?
Hello. This is my very first meeting with the United Nations, but I remember learning a lot of exciting things about United Nations, especially because I have aspirations in healthcare. And I noticed that they are opening a networking circles for COVID-19. And I just wanted to see the different opportunities that I could reach by doing that. I was really impressed and amazed by the different opportunities that I saw Alibe and Connor had. And I will be serving as a rapporteur today. I'm a student at East Carolina University, and at times I work on sustainable development projects at my school, where we help with cleanup, adopt a street, and other ways to help keep our environment clean.
Thank you very much, Mariela. And we have Levy here as well.
Yes, thank you very much. So I'm Levin Yilenda from Zambia. I am the regional focal point for East and Southern Africa in Humanitarian Affairs Working Group. I'm with UNMGSY. So we are working on youth engagement and working with young people in the region and also globally. So here I'm also serving as one of the reporters, and also just to learn more. So as Kwana said, we are still learning. So learn together and believe that we'll hear from one another. And I'm looking forward to hear more and to learn more today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, we're going to start the discussion now. I'll kick things off with Alibe, but we would like to hear from as many of you as possible. I think the best thing to do is, if you do have something that you'd like to contribute, please raise your hand. And you can also put something in the chat as well, which the rapporteurs will help us to take a look at. And that way we won't all be talking over each other at the same time, which is one of those problems with Zoom and telecommuting. I've been in many myself where you can't hear anything that's going on. I'm actually doing online language classes with the UN at the moment. And one of the worst moments is when the teacher asks us all to repeat a word or a phrase, and you have this awful sound in your ear of 30 people all speaking at the same time. And it's really difficult. So those are the kind of things, the problems that can happen. I mean, I think that it was interesting what you were saying, Alibe, about the positives to come out of this. I think that, well, one thing I've heard is that what you don't get in a forum like this, which you would get in a face-to-face conference, is there's no kind of back channel. There's no kind of the meeting, the informal chat over a coffee where you can do some networking and discuss things that are a bit off topic, but may well be useful a bit later on. And the other thing is, actually, here's another bit of housekeeping. Would you all mind going on mute? Because now I'm getting some feedback from someone who's not on mute. There you go. See, this is what happens. The other thing is that these conferences, I'm not talking about what we're doing right now, but the more kind of formal conferences, which consist of lots of, say, high-level speakers, prime ministers, senior UN officials. There's no buzz. There's no kind of atmosphere that you'd get if you were there. You're just getting a stream of prepared statements that can last for a very long time. And it just doesn't have the same atmosphere that you would have if you were in the room. Your thoughts on that, Alibe? And you're still on mute.
So one of the things that I really miss was the like you said, the interaction. I read people. I love body language. I couldn't do that through a Zoom meeting or through a WhatsApp conversation, a video. But I think we lose that side. But then imagine, I mean, just like right now, we are meeting people from all around the world. We are able to connect. We are able to exchange information, educate each other, and exchange solutions. Because that's one of the most beautiful things that I have been appreciated about the UN. You go there and on the floor, listening to other people, how they are doing or dealing with a situation, you get an idea for your own community. So not only that, you can contact each other and then continue the conversation aside from the Zoom meeting. So I think that is a fantastic way as an add to what the pandemic brought us to. And also, it really forced everybody to become more savvy, including the older generation, because of the necessity of communication. And I think that's fantastic, because I have seen so many people just flourish with this idea that, oh, now I have access to communication and I can do it. And the fear is gone, because that was a necessity. And before, they didn't do that.
I'm sure we all saw that at a family level as well, when we were in the most extreme phase of lockdown and we couldn't go anywhere. The only way we could communicate with our families, our parents, young children was through telecommunication. And you're right, people overcame that fear factor very quickly. And I think that there's that speeded up use of tech. People were maybe predicting that in 5 years' time we might be reaching this level, and there's definitely been something positive about that. And also I think, Alibe, that we're all on the same level as well. There's no sense that the UN people are at this table and civil society are here. We're all in the same space. I found that really useful myself when we've had meetings where we have a mix of NGOs and UN people. Maybe there are 200 people there, many of whom I don't know. Just by putting a message in the chat, I can reach out to people, and personally, I found that very helpful to be able to make some great non-UN contacts.
Anybody else wants to share an experience and how COVID has helped them to move forward?
And if you feel shy, you can put it in the chat as well.
Yes, we welcome comments, questions. Remember, we are exchanging ideas right now. So we do welcome your opinion.
Why don't we start with our rapporteurs? Levy, you're in Zambia right now, is that right?
Yes, I'm in Zambia right now. Yes, you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes, you're in Zambia right now. What's
Yes.
your experience been throughout COVID, and I guess being forced to use tools like Zoom more than you did before, perhaps?
Oh yeah, you mean like the programs we had, and also a lot of things like during COVID-19, a lot of things changed. We are talking of advocacy. We are also talking of outreaches. You know, it was not easier because we were restricted to move out, to go around. So then you also understand, like here in Zambia, this is it's not the developed country, it's the developing nation. So it means other parts were affected, like people who cannot use digital means, like people who don't have phones, people who don't have people who can't watch TV, people who can't do it online. It was impossible for us to go and reach out to them. But for those maybe who can access Facebook, who would have just changed programs. We started doing everything online, where we can just have a program. We say we're going to go live on Facebook, then we are teaching people. So we had also another challenge where, because we've worked with street children with an organization called Needs for Orphans Foundation. So we had a program to go and reach out to the street children. But these are the people who doesn't have phones. These are the people who are just living in the street and they can't access internet. So we were forced to go there and to go and distribute face masks. I think that's the only outreach which we had, because you know the street children, they don't have maybe people who can protect, who can tell them to do what. So it's more like we are in charge of them. They obey whatever the organization says. So that was the only place where which we had access to go and talk to them. But these other places like schools, in the churches, in villages, we are restricted, because you find that maybe the leaders there, they'll tell you to say you have to follow the health guidelines, you have to do this, and while there are people who still need help. So that was the only thing. That was my experience.
I think that's a really good point, that all these tools we're talking about are restricted to people who have good internet access. And you know, in places that the kind of people that you're trying to reach, if you have travel restrictions, then it's very, very difficult to reach people. I know in some of the countries that the UN has been working with, there's been more of a push towards radio, because if you don't have internet, you don't have TV, radio is often the way that you can reach people on a large scale. Has that been the experience in Zambia?
Yes. That has worked. Like these other places, radio has been working. Radio has been helping for an awareness program. Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, with the restrictions, as you say, still very difficult. How about you, Mariella?
Yeah.
At my college, definitely with COVID, it's been very hard for outreach, because lots of people are either home, or if they are on campus, they might be having restrictions where they can't really gather and learn about opportunities to network. And their only opportunities are online career and networking fairs, but sometimes they have technical difficulties. They don't have the resources to access them full time. And so it makes it really difficult.
Yes, I can well imagine. Yeah, wherever you are, it's been a really tough going on to what, 3 years now? Alibi, I think you wanted to say something.
Well, this is more on a social level that has had such an impact too, with young people. Young people right now are supposed to be enjoying that interaction and dating and meeting other friends, and their social network just shrink because of the pandemic. And I mean, I'm glad that right now we are going back to school. Kids can go back to school and colleges, but it was definitely very hard. And one of the things that I try to do through the process, not just helping organizations, but also individuals. How do you help individuals through the process without seeing them? So if I had an intern, how do you work with the intern to make sure that the person was okay, and had that constant communication, either by video or chats, and just checking on other people that didn't have family members in the community to reach out to, or alerts 311, there is somebody who is alone and needs help. You know, all those things with COVID have been, I think, I want to think that it has made us a little bit selfish, like it's all about your personal life and your protection. But I also seen a lot of people reaching out and doing so much and exposing themselves just for the fact that they want to help somebody else. So anybody has anything to add to? I see Jeff joined the meeting. Jeff, you created a channel. Jeff is my partner, actually. We work together. He created his own channel to reach out to communities and speak about different levels of, you know, helping them. I leave it to you, Jeff. Add something.
Thank you. I mean, even beyond the channel, yes, we did create the channel, and I co-produced the Alibe Sustainable World as well. We launched a channel called Tomorrow's Journey, initially Unprecedented Journey, because I had wanted to start a channel for a while, and I kept looking for something. I didn't want to be a YouTuber that was shouting and making more noise like a lot of the YouTube channels. So we focused on something bigger than us, and we were focusing on nonprofits and community work, and kept looking, and suddenly COVID hit, and we said, well, we found the thing that's bigger than us. So for the whole first year of COVID, we basically did broadcasts that focused on looking at this time of adversity, putting it in perspective, because a lot of times, especially if English is the primary language, we sort of forget to look at the etymology of words. So quarantine, what the journey, it's been around since the Venetian era, and the shipyards there, and having to dock off port for 40 days. So just starting to build up perspective and reminder constantly, as well as using this time as a resource for getting to things that were on our list, hopefully not our bucket list, but our lists of things to do. And whether that was a long desired task, like writing a book or starting a channel, or whether that was spending more time constructively with folks, whether it's family or beyond, how to set up your home office now that everyone was at home, and maybe in a family's case, 4 home offices all in one apartment. In New York City, that's hard. And then moving forward and even doing broadcasts, like one of our first broadcasts was with a fellow I've known for a long time who did the crime, did his time, but he knows what lockdown is. But while he was in jail, he started writing, and he is now released. He has written 5 books. So if anybody could put lockdown in perspective, let alone how to use that time, as he says, not surrounded by a lot of happy campers, to do something positive and basically change his life, he was a great role model. So that was one of the things we did. And I do want to say, I think one of the added advantages, even though we've gone to this remote world that I was sort of living in before, I think I'm finding people are more communicative and more reachable. These days through tools like LinkedIn, suddenly you ping somebody, 9 times out of 10, you're getting a response back. So in some ways, I think we've become a smaller and more willingly plugged in world. And I think that could be the upside. Now we have to just make sure manners stay in place, and good mindfulness stays in place going forward. Thank you.
Jeff, I'm really glad that you had someone who made that connection between prison and lockdown, because I thought it many times, but I didn't know if it was appropriate to make that connection. But if someone who's been in prison thinks that's the case, then I think that's really useful, and to have those lessons learned. I mean, it's been, I'm sure this is the same for many of you here, it's been like learning how to socialize oneself from scratch. Should I be writing 3 books? Should I be drinking at lunchtime? Should I be working out 5 times a day? And generally learning how to find that balance. And I'm not going to lie, there have been plenty of pitfalls along the way over those last 2 years. And that really links into mental health awareness. I mean, Jeff, I get that you're in New York. Is that correct? I mean, I'm living in New York as well, which is probably the most neurotic city in the world, constantly talking about its own citizens' mental health. But from what I'm reading, I think this is a conversation that is happening in many parts of the world, which has been exacerbated by this big rise in anxiety that many people had. What that means from a pharmaceutical point of view. and also a sort of a self-help point of view as well. Is that something that you've come across?
Yes, very much so. In fact, we did one last year on Valentine's Day. We thought that was particularly appropriate with a wonderful family and couples therapist that I know out in San Francisco, Valerie Kime. And I think the short soundbite that I loved for her to say was, too much nagging, not enough shagging. And I thought that was, that was a wonderful phrase. But she gave quite a lot of good bon mots and exercises that even couples, or particularly couples that are just getting to know one another in the midst of something like this, how they can really use it as a time to open up conversation and go a little deeper and broader than one might normally on a first date or a second date.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Valentine's Day, like Christmas Day, can be terrible times for many, many people, and perhaps that's reached a new level now that we're doing it all online. Alibe, did you have anything that that you wanted to say about that issue, particularly about the difficulties, the mental difficulties that many of us have had to deal with and try to overcome?
Well, first of all, I think with this program that I co-produced with Jeff, it almost brought it to perspective to me in the way that I was helping everybody else. I was making sure that my family was okay. I was making sure my community was okay. My friends were okay. And I completely forgot that I needed to be okay. And I thought going through this session with Valerie was fantastic because it made me put a stop and then reevaluate, okay, what I'm doing for me, how am I gonna use this time for me, and how can I balance the in between the reaching out and be always there and the superhero to everybody, how I'm gonna do that for me. And it really helped me to reschedule myself and to put priorities and to set up times for my job, for continue growing my consultancy and my channel. But at the same time, also putting a little bit of a break or a wall between me and the family when I was accessible, when I wasn't. So it's very interesting that we always think out, always for outside, but how do we focus on ourselves? And I think that everybody should take that time and say, okay, so what have I been through with COVID? Which is almost as when you lose a very dear person in your life and you are the next one. It happened to me. I was the oldest one. I lost my father. I became in charge of everything. 6 months later, it hit me really hard. And then I started going through the whole process of, and I was wondering when that was going to happen to me. I was constantly thinking, oh, when am I going to have my breakdown? Because everybody else is breaking down. So, just be aware of that. I mean, that's one message that we should keep always helping others, but don't forget to help yourself.
Quite right. You have to put your own oxygen mask on first, don't you, as they say on the plane. And my tip has been turn the notifications off on your phone, especially in the evening, because you don't have to be on 24/7. We've got 2 hands raised. Swati, did you have something you want to say? Then we'll go to Comfort.
Yeah, actually, I could relate to you, Alibe. I just wanted to share. I never wanted to telecommute, even though it was offered to us as UN staff members. I was the one person in my office who was like, no way, I'm never working from home. I would hate it. And I have to say that I am so grateful for telecommuting now because first of all, I was able to connect with family and friends much easier. And like you, Alibe, I lost my father right before the pandemic, and my mom was stuck in India for 2 years. So I was also, even though I'm the youngest, I was put in that position. Like, how am I going to get to her? How am I going to get vaccine to her? Healthcare, who's going to look after her? So all that was playing, really, it was so difficult, emotionally, mentally, physically. And I realized that I did not take care of myself during that time at all. And I couldn't shut off notifications because of the time difference. So my phone was on 24/7. And there was times where I would just go even to the bathroom and just break down because I was like, I don't know what I could do. And my husband was like, what can I do to help you? But there was nothing. I just felt helpless. But we were finally able to get her here. And I still say, I love telecommuting. I love doing these Zoom events because I feel we're connecting to more people than we do in-person events. So that was just something that I experienced, and I'm sure a lot of you on the screen also had your own experiences. Thank you.
Yeah, and condolences to both of you. I mean, that's really tough, and not being able to see people face to face and mourn properly has been difficult for so many people around the world. Comfort, you wanted to say something. First of all, can you just introduce yourself to us all, please?
Oh, hi everyone. My name is Comfort Asabe, and I represent the American Psychological Association, the APA, the UN, and designated to the DGC. I live in New York City, and like many of you who have who live in New York City, and you don't even have to live in New York City. We were the epicenter of the whole thing for a long time. I also teach, and one of the major groups that had this, we're almost invincible a little bit, are the immigrant students who have no family members around, who are also worried about their loved ones at home. And many of them also, when these essential medical workers, home health aides, and that was a really, that was still a very vulnerable group, and much of the emphasis were not on them. And unfortunately, some of them don't even qualify for the little government money handed out. And mental health became a real big issue for them. I'm also a licensed clinical psychologist. So that is a group that needs quite a bit of outreach. Some of the all the colleges have mental health centers, but mental health is still highly stigmatized for many immigrant groups, and then they closed the centers, and it was so one of the good things that I can see through that is some of the students who would not go to the mental health clinics, we're connecting online with therapists, which I found to be really very, very good. But that's still a very vulnerable group. And classes are back for many colleges, but not in full in person. Again, when Omicron came all of a sudden. But that's a group that needs quite a bit of outreach.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Comfort. And yes, I can imagine people so far away from home as well. It must be particularly difficult for them. I think Victoria had her hand up.
Yeah, I was having my hand up.
Hi, Victoria. Go ahead. First of all, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Victoria. I'm representing myself as a youth activist, and I wanted also to give a bit to tell you something about the pandemic, because this is exactly how I started myself and my initiative. During the pandemic, I was studying international relations, and in general, it's a degree that is pretty challenging for students because they have sometimes this problem of understanding what exactly they want to do, because in general, this degree is very broad. And when the pandemic started, it hit really hard, especially for class 2020, like me, who was supposed to graduate that year and basically was locked home. And it was very hard for networking, like, and understanding what to do next. And as far as I was like living this problem with myself, I decided to do an initiative, and I did a blog where I decided to connect students, IR students with companies, assist them with career counseling, inviting different experts and so on. And I understand that it's today it's 2022. The problems are not diminishing, of course. There are also like some other problems now, like mental health and other things that I'm discovering yet. And I understand that my initiative has grown, and now we have around 20,000 youngsters who are expecting me to get help from me. And as I said, like the problems are not diminishing, and there are still many problems that need to be solved. When I see those people, when I meet them, when I speak with them, I understand that it's getting harder. And it requires more efforts, more connections in order to help those students, because they see me as a person who can help them. And that's the point where it needs like some networking, some connections, some collaborations with big companies, because there are many ideas how to help them, especially when I understand that they see me as somebody who can connect with somebody else, what can help them with their careers in the future or their education.
Why do you think it's getting harder?
Why it's getting harder? Because the restrictions are still on. If for us, for youngsters who were studying international relations, because it's my target audience, it was easier before because we could connect through universities, we could go to career fairs, we could go on person, or the specialists were coming to our universities. For example, I was studying at Sciences Po in Paris. It was really a great networking community because the UN itself also was coming to us, and we had a chance to speak directly and get career tips at the career fairs. Today, when the doors are closed and not all the people and all the students are studying at university like Sciences Po, moreover, the economic situation is not getting easier, and not all the students can get scholarships to study at prestigious universities, again, like Sciences Po or Harvard. But they still want to work for the UN, for example, because they are studying international relations. So they don't see this bridge. They don't understand how to be connected. They don't understand how to get this kind of connection with the UN, for example. And as on my own, I was doing an initiative when I was invited to my blog, different UN agencies, just to do live streams, also to give this opportunity for youngsters to speak with different agencies, just to tell them how, for example, to do an application, you know, some easy like stuff like that. But again, as I said, like I understand that, for example, I'm with my initiative alone. And of course, I need help and support and something else, because I have a lot of ideas what to do for them. But of course, if you, again, like when the problems are getting bigger, and there is also like the problem of mental health, of course, like it's not getting easier for me too. So that's why it's getting harder.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. Yeah. Alibe.
Oh, no, I just wanted to add that, well, first of all, I would love to connect with you because I've been an absolute advocate of education and helping students to get connected to the right people. One of the things as a positive side that I have seen flourish is in LinkedIn. Now companies and nonprofit organizations are posting positions for interns, pay interns, unpaid interns with some benefits, but that has been showing more and more now in LinkedIn. So that's one way of being connected. But I totally understand the point of offering something, and then all of a sudden you realize how much the need is there, and then everybody's trying to get something from you and you don't have it. So partnership, absolute, Victoria, we have to connect. Partnership is a must, and that's what I do with my consultancy, because I realize that even nonprofits don't know how to truly extend their network. Sometimes they feel threatened that by extending network, they're losing certain control. And it's not, you are just creating a stronger structure for your organization. And also by extending connections and building a stronger partnership around you when it comes to sponsorship. anybody who's going to come and help you with funds, it will make that corporation trust you more, because if other organizations are trusting you, then why can't they trust you? So, I mean, it's very tough to be an advocate for the community, the things we find. So.
And sadly, I guess, it means that we all have to be more savvy, not just on using these tools, but on things that I, for example, didn't really want to engage with, like search engine optimization, getting your word out there. I mean, at the UN now, people like me, content makers, writers, people who are creating podcasts or videos, we are not able to just say this is nothing to do with us anymore. We all have to engage at some point and have some understanding of it, simply because it's a crowded market out there, whether you're a job seeker or whether you're trying to give, like you're doing, Alibe, trying to tell people about your organization, or even the UN, which has a huge brand, if you will. We have to make sure that we show up on Google, quite frankly, that we are on the front page. That when we're talking about a particular issue, if you type in famine, Sahel, or Mali conflicts, that the UN stories are some of the main stories you're getting. And this is coupled with trying to fight misinformation, which has definitely become way more important, I think, since the pandemic. First of all, we had the COVID-19 misinformation, but then misinformation about all kinds of other subjects. More people spending more and more time online. And this is something that's taking up a lot of our time institutionally. Some of you may know that the UN even collaborated with an outside organization to launch a campaign to fight misinformation and to help to educate people, raise awareness of frankly, the rubbish that's out there, the lies that are out there that are really dangerous and are definitely costing people lives. I see James Claffey has his hand up. James.
Yes, hi, Jim Claffey. I'm an NGO for the Congregation of the Mission, which is the Vincentian priests and brothers around the world. Something you said kind of got me thinking when you said New York City, the most neurotic city in the world. It may very well be, but it's worse than that, it seems to me. I mean, there's an anger and an angst and an impatience in society right now that's just amazing. And I mean, we have to really recognize, I think, that's the ambiance in which we're trying to get things done. I notice it mostly in driving. I've been driving cars a long time. Driving is really dangerous right now. People are taking so many chances on the road. It's like the level of impatience and intolerance, I guess, first of all, the political situation is enough to drive anybody crazy. On top of that, the restrictions and people's feelings about the mask or the non-mask or the vaccination, all of this is really making society kind of crazy. And I think we have to be really, clear-eyed that's what we're dealing with, at least in the city right now. But secondly, taking this conversation in another direction a little bit, we all know that advocacy in person is much better than what we're able to do, in spite of all the good things about the technology and the Zooms and all that. But worse than that, I hope that we don't get so used to this new normal of operating this way, or even if it becomes a combination of virtual and in person, I hope that this new normal, we don't get too used to it, because it seems to me it contributes to the problem of a shrinking space for civil society at the UN. Now, I'm brand new, so I don't know a lot about that, but I hear this a lot from people, that the civil society is suffering sort of a shrinking space, in spite of what DESA does to help us and all of that. And so I hope we can not make peace with this new normal, but struggle to get back as much as possible to the way things operated previously, so that we can get some real serious advocacy done on behalf of people.
What do you mean by shrinking space, Jim? You mean the fewer opportunities for civil society?
Fewer opportunities, and the governments that don't particularly want to hear from civil society, and there are many, in spite of what they might say in their official declarations. We all know, they love the photo ops and signing documents, and they don't do anything about it when they go back to their own countries. countries that don't want to hear from us in civil society, who try to act sort of as a conscience for the UN, it's easier for them to ignore us in this situation than it is from when we're able to deal with them in person. So just a thought. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Interesting what you're saying about society becoming more intolerant. I used to think that there was a real divide between real life and online life. If you look at the way that discourse is clearly much more intolerant and there's less nuance, the way that people interact on Twitter, on Facebook, I perhaps naively thought that this is not the way that people speak in real life when you talk to them about these subjects. From what you're saying, you seem to be implying that the online lack of nuance, impatience, intolerance is bleeding into real life. Is that something that you're experiencing?
To some degree, yes. Yeah, it's a big concern. People, it's easier to hide behind the technology in putting some stuff out there than you would have to do that you would have to do in a face-to-face kind of situation. So it's adding up to a pretty dangerous and difficult environment, I think, in spite of all the good things about, with Zoom, you get more people to a meeting. All of that is true, but we have to be, I think, clear-eyed about the other side of it as well.
I saw Alibe nodding.
One of the things that I felt so strongly to follow with James, what James is saying, it wasn't a shutting down, but when we went into the pandemic and reaching out to the UN, it was only through that email with your name, a message. It didn't have the same impact. I'm not saying that I was dismissed, but to have that face-to-face interaction and to really explain, and sometimes these issues that we deal with nonprofits are very emotional because we're talking about people. It's the impact on people in the community. So when we went through that process that we couldn't reach Hawa, we couldn't reach Felipe, it was hard. It was really hard because we needed assistance, we needed a connection, we needed the network, and we couldn't have access. But at the same time, obviously knowing the UN as I do now, I understood the reasons why if they would have been something open to them, they would have been overflown with so much, including so much that they were doing online in terms of meetings and forums. So we have to be a little patient and try to work with the tools that we have. And but I do understand what James is saying. Not having that interaction, sometimes it does feel that even people from friend to friend, oh, I don't want to talk to this person right now, blocked you down, for a while. It gets to you because it also adds to this agitation that we are feeling, these emotions, this craziness that we are feeling is because now we are not reaching the way we want to or we used to those people. If it was a job or if it was a friend or if it was an agency to get support from. And it's true, they keep on putting this wall down to protect themselves to some extent, but also it makes it harder to penetrate and to really get what you need from partnerships and monies or just to talk.
Well, we're running out of time. We only have 2.5 minutes left. So if you have any last points, we'll come to you in a second, Jeff. Please do put your points in the chat. The rapporteurs, Mariella and Levy, are gathering up the information. They're going to be reporting back in the main session once we're finished here. So just some closing words from Jeff.
I'll keep it brief, but the one thought I had is, with the digital medium, voices have been amplified, both for good and maybe not for good. But I do, what I saw even in my own COVID testing procedure was something that you might normally not have a procedure for. For example, when I tested and I tested positive, I was contacted 2 days later. I see my cell phone ring, and it's the New York COVID Center. And immediately, not only was it a tracing call, which we give over to now, but we also then went down a social services side, which was, I found so terrific. You know, could I isolate properly, or what would that inconvenience me and my family? Did I need a hotel? Did I need food delivered? Did I need a COVID kit sent to me that included masks, hand sanitizer, and even one kit? So in some ways, I think there's been such great examples of that. That might have even seemed Big Brother. To many, it may still seem like Big Brother's interfering, but I got off the phone and I thought, glad I took the call, glad that's in place. And I started reflecting, what would AIDS and HIV and that epidemic, we called it, even though it was a pandemic, what would have been different then if these services had been in place and we were this diligent? So I'm really hoping that what we're seeing is this level of communication and openness. Yes, there's still some leaning far to the right that want to shut that down and stay on the back porch, as it were. But I'm seeing some of those resources open up, and I think some good practices in place. I've also shared the link with to the YouTube channel that I mentioned, and I make that also an open resource for all of you as well, for good stories, good ideas, and sharing, amplifying good voice.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jeff. And we just have a few seconds left, 20 odd seconds. Just want to say thank you to everyone. As Jeff said in the chat, you can see the link to his YouTube channel. Victoria has very kindly sent a link to her Instagram blog. And if anyone else wants to put any links, Alibe, for example, you're welcome to put in the links to your organization and anyone else. And thank you to all.